I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Natalia Sineaeva-Pankowska is a scholar and practitioner specializing in genocide education, memorialization, and minority rights, a Rotary Peace Fellow and OHCHR Minority Fellow. She has worked with the Polin Museum and the Never Again Association and co-created Minorities for Peace. She's based in Poland and she will speak on the freedom of expression, press, and journalists. We welcome you very much to this webinar. Thank you.
Can I just butt in for a moment, please, Tamanna? We have got some very good comments. So after Natalia, if you could read out one or two comments, which are just select one or two and read them out. Thank you very much, those who have sent the comment. Maybe we won't be able to read all of them, but we'll try to read one or two. Sorry for the interference. Natalia, please.
Good afternoon. And first of all, let me thank the organizers, speakers, respected freedom fighters, participants, and journalists. And it is an honor to be with you today. What is happening in Bangladesh resonates with our own experience of Eastern Europe, and we are deeply concerned. Bangladesh faces similar challenges. Freedom of expression is not only about today, it is also about memory, its recognition, and it's also about future. And there are many ways to silence this, including suppression, erasing narratives, or selecting stories. It is a society that's still dealing with aftermath of genocide, which happened not so long ago in 1971, and has not only been fully addressed yet. And journalists, writers who critically work on this are censored, silenced, intimidated, and arrested. Both contexts I mentioned show how state, how power can control narrative and how they can eliminate critical voices. Silencing and eliminating journalists is similar to ignoring genocide or atrocity survivors and their stories. And it makes it much harder for society to deal with its own history. Freedom of expression is important for dealing with the past. This happened in Eastern Europe years ago, and it is happening in Bangladesh today. In 1997, the United Nations identified 4 pillars in the holistic process of dealing with the past. They represent what every society needs to do to heal after atrocities and after the genocide. The right to know, which focuses on providing access to information and documentation of atrocities. The right to justice, addressing the need to bring the perpetrators of atrocities to justice. The right to reparations, provide victims with an opportunity to seek justice and compensation, and the guarantee of reoccurrence, education, and memorialization to ensure that violence not happen again. And in this context today, I'd like to highlight a renowned Bangladeshi journalist, filmmaker, writer, and children's author, Shahriar Kabir, a humanist. And Shahriar Kabir is someone who contributed significantly to the process of dealing with the past after the war and genocide, strengthening all 4 pillars by documenting war crimes, atrocities, pressing for accountability, and promoting religious pluralism. And I remember how we met Shahriar Kabir in Dhaka for the first time, and it was in 2019. And we went to Bangladesh to visit our friend from the Buddhist community. And I also attended a conference. And when our Buddhist friend wanted to introduce us to Shahriar Kabir, whom he admired for his books and his work on human rights and post-genocide accountability. Shahriar Kabir has always focused on values of an inclusive society and pluralism, but not as a politics as such. And what is happening now under the current government in Bangladesh is very disturbing. And Shahriar Kabir has been detained since September 2024 for his critical voice, and numerous fabricated charges of murder and so-called crimes against humanity have been initiated against him. And he has not only been silenced by his detention, but humiliated with no access to proper medical care, wheelchair, as he cannot walk properly. And it is an illustration of how critical voices can be eliminated from public discourse and how it can impact the whole process of dealing with the past in such post-genocide society as Bangladesh. And when journalists and writers were silenced, Bangladesh cannot implement the pillars of dealing with the past, which was proposed by the United Nations, because it impacts all aspects of life. In his last interview in August 24, which I read, Shahriar Kabir mostly spoke about values. He spoke about values and his concern for these values under the current political circumstances. The liberation war values on which Bangladesh was founded, secularism, that means religious pluralism in the context of Bangladesh. And I learned much about the history of Bangladesh from Shahriar Kabir, as many others. And at the same time, Shahriar Kabir is a global hero, someone who is very knowledgeable, not only about his own country, the region, but much beyond borders, observing democratic changes in our Eastern Europe. The fall of the Berlin Wall, meeting the first democratically president of Poland, Lech Walesa, and publishing a book about him. And our last conversation with Shahriar Kabir was in Dhaka when we met, just before the known events. And it was about history of Bangladesh, about religious pluralism, interreligious harmony, minorities, also about Poland, about everything. And a prisoner of conscience by Amnesty International and recognized already in 2001, Shahriar Kabir has always been on side of those who are marginalized, excluded, suppressed, be they minorities, indigenous people, or Rohingya refugees. And at the moment, we don't see any attempt from those in power in Bangladesh today to care and to engage in the honest and inclusive process of dealing with the past. Not only journalists are silenced, but there are also reports of growing attacks on minority communities, which is very troubling, as it was already mentioned earlier by Dr. Milad. Minorities are also silenced. They're also excluded by fear of persecution. They cannot speak up. And also Bangladesh significantly dropped in the Global Peace Index produced by the Institute for Economics and Peace. It was on the place 97 and now more than 33 points down among all countries in the world. And by referring to and covering themselves with a previous government, current authorities of Bangladesh simply transfer guilt and responsibility from themselves to others. And this is all well-known tactic used by atrocity and genocide deniers and distorters. And we know from history, there are examples of silence in Eastern Europe, in Africa, in Asia, and in other continents. When nobody reacted, we waited for any developments, and when it was too late to react. And despite of our solidarity, together with organizations such as Genocide Watch, Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention and Human Security, South Asia Democratic Forum, the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism, and many others in support of Shahriar Kabir, there is also little support from the international community, which stays indifferent. And when journalists and writers are silenced, society lost not only critical voices, they lost the ability to deal with the past in an honest way and to build sustainable peace. And there are many other political prisoners and honest journalists who are now unjustly detained and silent in Bangladesh. And it's our responsibility and task to raise awareness and to draw the attention to the international community to grave human rights violations in Bangladesh, to silence and indifference. Silence critical voices, silence journalists is not only about human rights, it's not only about freedom and violations of human rights, but it is attack on memory, on justice, and on inclusive society. And I would like to end, and I would like to conclude and address the international community and people in power in Bangladesh by quote of a Polish Auschwitz survivor, Marian Turski. Don't be complacent. Wherever you see the past being misused for current political purposes, don't be complacent. Whenever any kind of minority is discriminated against, the essence of democracy lies in the rule of the majority. But democracy itself lies in the fact that rights of minorities must be protected. Don't be complacent. Whenever any government violates already existing common social contracts, remains faithful to the 11th commandment, never be a bystander. Because if you become complacent before you know, it's some kind of Auschwitz will suddenly fall from nowhere and befall you and your descendants. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words, and I think people will remember about not being a bystander. I mean, what a set of words to end on. Thank you very much, Natalia Sineaeva-Pankowska.